Once upon a time, in a realm shrouded in perpetual twilight, there lived a kind and gentle king. He loved his people more than anything in the world. But his kingdom, this beautiful land, was afflicted by a strange and terrible malady. A creeping shadow of thorns was slowly, inexorably consuming the land. The thorns advanced day by day, a silent, menacing tide of darkness. And here is the truly terrifying part. Anyone pricked by one of these thorns would fall into a deep, dreamless sleep. Their bodies would remain, but their spirits would drift away. Their hearts, once filled with warmth and laughter, would grow cold and distant. Imagine the heartbreak of the king, watching his beloved subjects, his friends, his neighbors, lose their joy and their connection to one another, one by one. The vibrant tapestry of his kingdom was unraveling before his very eyes. He was a good king, a proactive king. He didn't just sit on his throne in despair. He immediately consulted the wisest sages in the land, men and women who had studied the ancient texts and knew the secrets of the earth. He summoned the most powerful sorcerers, those who could command the elements and peer into other realms. He begged them for a cure, a spell, anything to stop this creeping plague of sorrow. But even they were stumped. They searched their scrolls. They chanted their most potent incantations, but nothing worked. The thorns were resilient. They discovered the origin of the curse. It wasn't a simple hex cast by an angry wizard. No, the thorns were born of something far older and deeper. They were born of an ancient sorrow, a forgotten grief that had taken root in the very heart of the kingdom itself, long before anyone could remember. The sages did, however, uncover a single daunting prophecy. It was a sliver of hope, but a difficult one to grasp. The prophecy said that the curse could only be broken by a heart of pure love and love so selfless and so complete that it would be willing to embrace the thorn's sorrow entirely to feel all of its pain without reservation. But that wasn't all. This pure love needed a conduit, a vessel to channel its power into light. The prophecy spoke of a special tree, one that could transform love into a cleansing, healing radiance. The king listened to these words, and a heavy stillness fell over him. He looked at his sleeping people. He felt the coldness seeping into his kingdom, and he knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his soul, what he had to do. His own heart, you see, was the purest in the land. It was a heart that had never known selfishness, only devotion to his people. He was the heart of pure love the prophecy spoke of. His first task was to find the tree. The king, who could have commanded his entire army to search for him, set out on his own. He journeyed far and wide, through silent forests and over misty hills, searching for the perfect tree. He passed by magnificent, towering oaks, their branches reaching for the heavens. He saw graceful willows, their leaves like shimmering silver by the riverbanks. He could have chosen any of these beautiful, majestic trees. They seemed fit for a king's grand purpose. But his gaze, guided by an intuition he couldn't explain, fell upon something entirely different. Standing alone on a windswept hill, battered by 1,000 storms, was a rugged, gnarled old tree. It wasn't beautiful by any conventional measure. Its bark was rough and scarred, its branches twisted and broken in places. Yet, it stood defiant against the elements. Its very existence was a testament to endurance, to a quiet, stubborn strength. It was a humble, old, rugged tree, and in its resilience, the king saw a reflection of the love he held for his people, a love that had endured sorrow and hardship. This was the one. The king ordered the tree to be carefully uprooted and brought to the very center of his kingdom, to the heart of the capital city. It was placed in the main square, a stark and lonely figure against the backdrop of the sleeping city and the encroaching thorns. As the last rays of twilight faded from the sky, painting the clouds in shades of purple and grey, the king took a deep breath. He walked with a steady, determined pace toward the thorny thicket that now covered the entire castle square, its spiky tendrils reaching almost to the steps of his throne room. The thorns seemed to be alive. They writhed and reached for him, as if sensing the purity and warmth of his heart, drawn to it like moths to a flame. Anyone else would have recoiled in terror, but the king didn't flinch. He looked past the sharp points and saw the sorrow they represented. With a love that encompassed every single one of his sleeping subjects, every child, every elder, every family he had known, he stepped directly into the dense mass of thorns. He didn't fight back. He didn't try to protect himself. He walked to the very center, to the most ancient and gnarled thorn bush, the one from which all the others had grown. And he embraced it. He wrapped his arms around the cruel, spiky branches, allowing its spikes to pierce his skin, his clothes, his very being. The pain was immense, but he accepted it. Instead of fighting, he poured all of his love, all of his hope, and even his own sorrow for his people into the thorns. He was giving them what they were born from sorrow, but he was transmuting it with an even greater power, selfless love. The thorns, which had always thrived on bitterness, despair, and coldness, were completely overwhelmed. They had never encountered anything like this. The sheer force of the king's selfless love was a power they could not comprehend or resist. As the king's life force began to wane, as he poured his very essence into his embrace, a miracle happened. The rugged old tree in the center of the square began to glow. It started as a faint glimmer, then swelled into a warm, brilliant golden light. The light was so powerful it pushed back the twilight, bathing the entire square in a glow that felt like the first sunrise after a long, dark night. This light pulsed outward from the tree, flowing in waves of warmth and energy. It touched every single thorn in the kingdom, and as the light touched them, the thorns didn't just wither and die. They transformed. In a breathtaking spectacle, they blossomed into millions of beautiful, radiant flowers. Their petals unfurled, releasing a fragrance that filled the air not with the scent of sorrow, but with the perfume of hope and new beginnings. The curse was broken. One by one, the people began to stir. They blinked, stretched, and woke from their long, cold slumber. They felt a warmth spreading through their chests, a warmth they hadn't felt in so long. The coldness in their hearts melted away, replaced by the profound, comforting warmth of the king's love. They sat up and looked around, dazed at a kingdom no longer in twilight, but bathed in a gentle golden dawn. Their eyes were drawn to the magnificent, glowing tree in the square, and at its base, their beloved king. They understood, in a single, heart-wrenching moment, the incredible sacrifice he had made for them. The rugged old tree was no longer just a symbol of endurance. It had become a living monument, a symbol of ultimate love and redemption. It stood as a beacon of hope in their newly dawned land, a constant reminder of the king who loved them enough to embrace the thorns. From that day on, the people of the kingdom never looked at an old, rugged tree the same way again. They didn't see a rough exterior or gnarled branches. They saw a story. They saw strength. They saw the incredible, world-changing power of sacrificial love. This story, this image of an old, rugged symbol being transformed by an act of ultimate love, reminds me of a powerful hymn. It was written over 100 years ago by a man named Bennard. He was a preacher, and as he studied and prayed, he began to see the cross an instrument of suffering and shame in a new light. He saw it not as an emblem of defeat, but as a wondrous symbol of redeeming love. For him, the story wasn't about the wood of the cross itself, but about the one who made the ultimate sacrifice upon it. Just like the king in our story, it was an act of love so profound, transformed the very symbol of sorrow into a beacon of hope for all time. The old rugged cross became, for him and for millions since, a cherished emblem of redemption and grace. If this story of the king and the tree resonates with you, if the idea of a symbol of suffering being transformed by love means something to you, let's cherish that message together. Let's take a moment to reflect on that love. Now, let's sing that beautiful hymn, The Old Rugged Cross. Thank you for listening.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, has a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left his glory above to bear it to dark Calvary. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. To the old rugged cross I will ever be true, its shame and reproach gladly bear. Then he'll call me someday to my home far away, where his glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange